I'm working on a record and a DVD. It's pretty much at the point where now I just got to start mixing.
It's episode 207 of the Cassius Morris Show. Thanks for tuning in to this brand new edition of the podcast. How can one describe the guest we have on today? I'm not really sure. Virtuoso, multi-platinum selling artist, 3-time Grammy Award winner, 12-time nominee, an overall staple and icon of the music world. Steve Vai began his legendary run in the music business as guitarist for Frank Zappa. After leaving Zappa around the age of 20, Steve came onto the scene with his first solo record, the highly experimental Flexible, one of my personal favorites, and quickly gained a massive following for his virtuistic and innovative solo music. Today, Steve Vai is still looked at as one of the utmost authorities of the guitar and music in general. He continues to run fantasy camps all over the world, sharing his love of music on the road with supergroup Generation Axe, working on orchestral music, an acoustic record, and of course, new music with the Steve Vai Band. It is, without a doubt, an absolute honor and a privilege to be speaking to Mr. Vai as a guest today. If you like the interview you're about to see, please hit that subscribe button wherever you're currently tuned in, be it YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio. Hit that subscribe button and leave a comment or review. I definitely want to know what you guys think of the content I've been putting out. And without further ado, please enjoy my conversation with the one and only Steve Vai. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Dudeski.
How you doing?
Good. How goes it?
Fantastic, man. It's really nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Definitely. Thanks so much for taking the time. Just to give you some background, my name's Cassius Morris, and I'm out of Alberta, Canada. So very cold, but we're still rocking and rolling. By the way, I've really been loving your show that you've been doing, the Under It All show. I mean, wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, really. I mean, what's that been like for you, sort of switching the topics that you've been talking about?
Well, you know, it's interesting because I've always had the idea. I've always enjoyed talking about music and the guitar and my experiences in the music business, and especially things that have worked for me that I think could benefit others that have, you know, the aspirations.
Yeah.
But I've also, you know, that's a part of my life. Another big part of my life through my whole life was always, you know, I was always one of those guys that wanted to know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Very inquisitive.
Yeah, what's going on in the world? Like what, you know, why? And it served me well because it's led me down a lot of, you know, wonderful roads of personal discovery. And some of those things that I've learned there, I like to share in the live stream that I call Under It All.
Yeah, which is, you know, so huge, I think, for people to hear a different side of you and really be able to peel that layer back. And I think it's apparent if you really listen to your music and pay attention to the quotes in your interviews that's always been important to sort of peel back that extra layer and look a little deeper. I'm wondering, when did that start for you?
I think it was always something that was there. I remember when I was very young, I was like 4 or 5 years old. I remember just like, just thinking, okay, what's going on? You know, what am I'm here again. I can't explain.
Day after day.
I can't explain that. I'm here again in the world. Okay. And then as I went through life, certain experiences will drive you to wanting those answers more and more. And I had a pretty good childhood. It had its challenges, but regardless of what those challenges are, you know, we come into the world with a particular psychological cosmic eggshell, you know?
Yes.
You have to forgive my hand. I had something surgery on my thumb, so I'm waving.
Playing too hard?
Playing too hard, exactly.
Wow.
And you know, we have sort of like a particular psychological wiring. And for me, through my life, there was always in the background that kind of desire, you know, to understand what was going on, to the point where I was always like looking into things like religion or stuff
Hmm.
like that, you know. So and I just grew up a Catholic boy, you know,
Okay.
and I would go to like religious class or whatever, and
Kind of Sunday school.
Sunday school, catechism, and
Right.
I read the things that Jesus would say, and I'd say, oh, I really like that. But then there was other stuff in there. I'm like, this is insane shit,
Yeah.
this is just crazy.
No doubt.
So yeah, so I mean, for me, it just seemed crazy, and I could see
Hmm.
the fear, and fear just doesn't work ever.
Yeah.
And but that I didn't know that then. So of course, I started to feel more angst,
Hmm.
more intense. I was very intense, very, very intense young
How
man.
old were you around this time? Like a teenager?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Intense, not in a expressive way in the outside world so much.
Hmm.
But kind of things came to a head for me when I was touring with Frank Zappa, and I was on tour with him, and I was in Montreal,
Hmm.
1980, and I just had like a complete sort of, I didn't know what it was. It was like a breakdown or something, anxiety attack
Wow.
that it lasted a year and a half. I mean, it was panic, and it was all fear. And there's a fear that was in the background that just overcame me.
It kept bubbling up.
Yeah, and I didn't know what it was. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't doing drugs. I was nothing. So that I think it was I harbored a fear of going insane when I was younger.
Hmm.
I don't.
Interesting.
Yeah,
There's a
it's
term for that actually.
yeah.
It's escaping me at the moment, but that's actually a diagnosable sort of symptom of anxiety, being afraid of going insane.
Yeah, because I thought, you when you're in your own head and you have thoughts that you don't know why they're there, you start thinking there's something wrong with me. And then what
Right.
happens is it just gets compounded. It's a form of ignorance. It's just fear. It's just a form of fear that compounds itself. And I think one of the things was I loved music. I loved the idea of, playing music and all, but I was under the impression that if you became famous, you would go insane.
Hmm.
And it was
Which is
something
a pretty common idea.
not uncommon. Yeah. It
Yeah.
was something my aunt had said when I was a little boy, and when
Hmm.
you're young and you hear stuff like that, you go, oh, okay, now I get it. I don't ever want to become famous. I mean, she even said like, oh, you go to New York City and it's nothing but a rat race. For my whole childhood, I thought if I went to New York City, I would see rats racing.
Which way might not be far off, but no.
Not far off, right? So what happened was I became really fragile, and it
Hmm.
was the best thing that happened to me because depression is uh, it's like trial by fire, uh, and you don't know when you're going through it. It's inexplicable. I'm talking about deep kind of depression, not like
Feeling blue.
my dog died, so I'm depressed.
Yeah.
Nobody loves me, so I'm depressed. No, I'm not talking about that. That's that's more like being bummed out.
Yes.
Depression is something very different, and I experienced it when I was that young man for a while, and it's devastating. But it was valuable because your greatest spiritual teacher is your own suffering.
Hmm.
There's no doubt about that. So,
Wow.
because that suffering drove me into finding the answers for myself. And it started with the discovery of one book that started to resonate, answer questions, and another. And then I just and then, took a path for a little while on this and got something out of it, and then led me to something else. And I found my footing, and I found my freedom and my happiness.
Hmm.
I really did.
Through that knowledge.
Yeah, yes, through the study of spirituality, which is the only study worth anything. I
Hmm.
mean, of course, many studies are worth a lot,
Yeah, sure.
but the study of spirituality is the study of the self.
Yeah.
And if you don't know yourself, everything else is moot. And when I say know yourself, I'm not referring to your name, what you do in life, the thing, I am this and I am that. And
Hmm.
that's not knowing yourself. That's not knowing. That's knowing your ego.
Right.
Okay,
This
that's not
character that we've assigned ourselves.
the character we've assigned, the little voice in the head that's constantly commentating and judging things in the world and criticizing them. That is the ego. It's
Hmm.
not who you really are. This is a very important distinction to make. But people believe it's who they are. They believe that the little voice in the head that's speaking to them all day is who they are.
Right.
And this is a lie.
Yeah.
Okay? It's not. And any trouble that you see in the world is a result of that. It's the belief in somebody that you are that you're not.
What a fascinating condition, though, because it seems to be
The
the
human
vast
condition.
majority of people. Yeah, if not all of us to some level.
Yes, it's all of us in different levels. If I was to use the terminology unconscious or conscious, unconscious, a person that is unconscious is not aware that they're living their life through their conditioned thinking. They're living their life through the conditioned thoughts that they were taught, that they were led to believe are actually true about themselves and the world. They don't realize that these are conditioned beliefs that are just that, beliefs. They are
Right.
not truth. They are not fact. They are a form of quasi faux reality. They're not, it's a, that when you look into the world through your own conditioned thought patterns that you've inherited, you create a world that is unique to you, but it's not the real world.
It's not necessarily real. It's just
No,
what
it's not
you've
real at
created in
all.
your mind.
It's real to you,
Yeah.
and you will fight to the death to prove that it's the real world and it's the only truth. This is what all the suffering in the world is about. That just look at politics today. That's exactly what it's about.
Right.
No question. There's no debating that. It's the belief that you're right and everybody else is wrong. This is a lie. What it doesn't know is in reality, what's happening is you're working with everybody. This is what's actually happening.
Inherently, absolutely.
We are working together. If you were to take away, if you were the third party coming from another planet to look at the in an objective view, and you took away the even the wars and stuff like that, the vast majority of the time, we're all working together beautifully. If you took away the complaining in the head, if you took away the belief in ownership, which is just that, a belief. I mean,
Going
really,
back to that again, it all comes back to being a belief.
How can you own anything? You don't really own anything. Of course, yeah, this is my computer, and you know, but you don't own shit. This is an illusion. This is an illusion of the egoic perspective, and the egoic perspective finds its security in these things that it believes it owns. Sorry.
That's okay.
It believes it owns things and it puts its sense of security in them, but it doesn't work because there is no security in those things because they're futile. They're constantly changing. How could you put your sense of security in something that's constantly changing? If you had $100 billion, that's not enough security for the ego.
There's no satiating the ego. Yeah, ask Jeff Bezos, ask any of them, right?
Yeah. I mean, sure, it's in one level, it's a sense of security, but nothing can ever give you the sense of security that you get when you know who you are. When you know who you are, what you really are, and I'm not, as I said, I'm not referring to your name. That's not who you are. Your past is not who you are. Your fantasy future that you're creating in your head, it's not who you really are. Who you are is before all of that.
Right.
Who you are is the awareness that's looking at all these things. You're the awareness. You are the awareness.
Before before all these outside forces are implemented.
Yeah. What's looking at all the thoughts in your head? The awareness. What's the closest eye? There's two eyes. I'm not referring to this one. There's the I, Steve Vai, the I am this and I am that. And I am on my property right now that I own. You know what I mean? I am a guitar player. I am whatever this.
Right.
And then there's the I, which transcends all that, which is the closest recognition of your own awareness. And it doesn't have a name or anything in it. It just is. It's the Buddha called it the isness.
The isness. I like that.
Isness.
Interesting.
There's no fear in it. There's no it's life itself.
Right.
Ultimately, there's no death in it. You know, the opposite of death is birth. Life has no opposite. It just is. And who you truly are in your essence is life itself. This is not even debatable.
No, well, at this point, it's been documented in so many different forms and proven in so many different ways.
Well, the fact that you're able to see me right now is the evidence.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't even need to document it.
The fact that you're here, the fact that you can say, I am, that's all the evidence you need. As a matter of fact, and then I won't beat you up on this so much, or so to speak.
No, I love this. This is great.
As a matter of fact, there is only one thing that you can ever know for sure. That's true. Even if the world is a dream, as some philosophers say, you know, or even if whatever your perspective of things are is a false sense of reality, even if that's true, even if the world is a dream, there's still only one thing that you can know for sure. And that's that you're aware right now.
Yes, that is so true.
Yeah.
And it's not debatable.
Thing. And that's the thing that nobody knows.
And it's not talked about, really.
It's not talked about because when you know that, you don't need anything else for your security. You don't need to prove yourself right. You don't need to fight somebody for your position. You don't need to you stop worrying because that thing that is aware it's inexorable. It's the hardest thing to explain.
Of course.
Because there's no form to it. Who you are is invisible.
It's not tangible at all.
It's not tangible. Who you actually are is not a part of this world. It's not a part of this world. You stand separate from the world.
Right.
The world is outside. Your body is outside of you.
Right. Because who you are is inside of it.
It's inside of it. You're perceiving your body. Who you are is perceiving your body.
So you feel like you learned a lot of this through what you went through on that first Zappa tour.
Drove me into the realization of this.
At that time, were you, because you said that you were very introverted, were you able to talk to anybody at that time, or were you going through it all on your own? Yeah. Yeah,
I didn't have anybody to talk to. I started to discover things in books that resonated with me. And they give you that aha moment, which was good because I was on the verge of suicide.
Really?
Yeah. And, but that was, I never went, I've never gone back there. Trust me. That's
good.
Those ideas, those thoughts, you know.
But it can happen and it can go away forever. It can be a one-time thing.
Yeah. For me, it was. It doesn't mean that I don't get, disappointed or bummed out at times, But sure. I know in the background, none of that matters. Nothing that happens here can possibly really matter. It doesn't really matter. I see the world as an opportunity to co-create with my fellow human beings and expand consciousness and expand things. And that's actually what we're doing. When seen through the eyes of the ego, it turns into me and mine and separateness and destruction. It looks like destruction. It looks like all these things, but it's basically the way you're choosing to look at it. When in a state of healthy spiritual perspective, there is an appreciation and a love for people and the world that there's no way to explain it. There's no way. You don't even need to talk about it. You can't talk about it. There's, and it can come in waves, Um, and uh, and it's something that, as I sit here and say these things, it sounds as though I may be speaking like a spiritual master who has mastered all these things, but I'm still a work in progress. I constantly am seeing different layers of my own ego, you know,
Right.
but you have to see them. You have to see the obstacles. You see, when you're able to transcend the ego, you are able to embrace the true peace that is there, that's
Yeah.
always been there, that's just been obscured. And the only
Hmm.
thing that obscures it are the thoughts in your head that are wrong.
That's why they say get out of your own way, I suppose.
Yes, that's what that means.
That's a good way to put it. And such fascinating stuff. It leads me to wonder for you, I guess sort of a two-phase question. First off, are you still quite introverted? And second, how has that affected you in this past year in this lockdown situation? Have you found it inspiring and energizing, or have you found it a drag?
Well, it just helps you roll with the punches. And it
Okay.
doesn't, one of the things that you discover is everything is in your best interest, even though it might not look that way.
Mm, that's a good
Everything is
tip.
in your best interest. The lockdown, like there's always this in this world. This is a world of polarities.
Hmm.
Okay, it's
Especially
a
now.
world of swinging. Yeah, and the pendulum is always swinging, but that's how we expand. It's always going up. Everything goes like this.
Yeah.
Even the universe, even the way
Ebb
you
and flow.
breathe. Your
Mm,
heartbeat, boom, out. Everything,
yeah.
night, day, everything is like that. Even in the realm of life, death, bump, 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 dun, dun, dun. And
Totally.
that's because that's this world. Your awareness doesn't have any of this in it.
No. It's
No,
just
your
everything that
awareness is always
happens in
pure.
the world.
This is just shit that happens. It's part of the phenomenal world. So, and there's an ebb and flow in it, and that's why you get this political party, and then that political party, and then and it's all necessary.
Hmm.
Challenge is necessary for growth. What's not necessary is wallowing in the challenge.
Yes.
Challenges are valuable to show you what you want because they're showing you what you don't want. But the ego
Mm.
loves to stick around and wallow in those things you don't want and try to prove that those things that you don't want are the right thing for everybody.
It's the way the world should be, of course, because
That's
it's
the
my
way the
way.
world should be. And if you don't believe that, you're just wrong. So the lockdown, so to speak, creates a lot of this, and it's across the board on how it's affecting people. Some people it's making a lot of money for. Some people it's making them broke. Some people it's bringing their families closer together. Some people it's making them further apart. Some
Yeah.
people it's killing them. Some people it's giving them the sickness and an immunity that will probably help them out in future. I don't know. So if you look at it as whatever happens is in your best interest, because this is, I mean, as far as my perspective, this is true. This is true. There's no doubt. But it's based on, you can only see that based on how you look at it. So you
Hmm.
look at something like the lockdown, and if you have the courage to say to yourself, to ask yourself, how can this serve me? I know that there is a way that this can serve me really well. I don't know what that is, but for me to believe that there's not a way that this can serve me well is like saying the universe is limited.
Yeah, and putting
Yeah.
yourself in in an immense box, essentially.
Yeah. And who's doing that? The world?
The
No.
self.
You're doing it. No one
Right.
else. No one else. That's the funny thing. That's another thing you learn from the years of meditating and the suffering that can push you into finding another way and wanting the truth more than anything.
Hmm.
It leads you to see things differently. And one of those things is, like I mentioned, is everything's in your best interest. Um, and another thing is you can't judge anything. Not that
Expand on that.
Sorry?
Can you expand on that?
Yeah. Well, it's not that you shouldn't judge things. You can't. In order to be able to judge something as being, now of course, on one level, whenever I say things like this, people will say, oh, how could he say that? What about all the suffering people in the world? It's easy to judge that shouldn't happen. And what about when this happens to these people? I don't need to go there. Okay.
There may be an otherworldly exception, but that's not the point.
There is no exception because you can't even judge those things because in order to be able to judge something as being, well, let me ask you this. If you look back into your past, you may have noticed that things that you have judged one way, you've judged another way later.
100 times over.
Yeah. So your ability to judge anything, all bets are off. That's just common sense.
That's a damn good point, Steve.
Yeah, that's just common sense. And I'll tell you something else you realize about spirituality. Its basis is in practical reason. It is based in practical reason. Like when I say to you, the only thing that you can ever really know for sure is that you're aware right now. That's just practical reason.
Definitely. That's just common sense.
Common sense. Because everything else is debatable.
Right.
Right.
Maybe even taxes and, like not death, but taxes may be debatable. People say that.
Absolutely. Many societies lived without taxes very beautifully.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything is debatable. You just cannot debate the fact that you're aware right now, because if you weren't,
nothing's happening.
There's nothing. You don't exist. So the lockdown. A lot of people are even embarrassed to say that they've been thriving through the lockdown.
I've kind of noticed that too.
They kind of feel like, well, how can you say that when don't you feel guilty because of all the other people that are doing so bad?
Yeah.
No, I don't feel guilty for feeling good.
Well, why should you?
Why should I? I feel bad. How can I help somebody else by feeling guilty that I'm doing all right? And
yeah.
I definitely feel for people that are suffering, that are going through challenges. But okay, so I'm doing really great. I just had my hand torn apart. I had surgery on my hand. I just a week before that, I had my shoulder. I was in a sling. I've been in a sling for a month. I just took it out. I had my whole shoulder rebuilt.
What actually happened, if you don't mind?
Oh, I think it was just like playing with my shoulder hunched for 15
It actually
years.
Was from playing.
I think, it was that or maybe something else, because I'm pretty healthy all over. But
right.
There's other things. And somebody might say, yeah, well, you didn't have all your finances taken away. And you didn't, you didn't have this happen. You didn't lose these people. No, I've lost certain things and I've lost certain financial things. But you know what? Things change.
Yeah.
And it only means that it's time for change. If you lost your house, if you lost your money, and you even lost loved ones, it means it's time to change. Of course, there's a healing period. Of course, you have to figure things out, but you can, and you will. And the evidence of that is in how you've dealt with these things in the past. Look at your past.
Right.
Situations that have come up that you believed were devastating. Most of the time, you've figured out a way to navigate through them. And the results have turned into, a lot of times, most of the time, perhaps I would venture to say, things that they've led to things that have been good, beneficial,
right.
So that's what I mean by being in your best interest. It's only the way we choose to look at them that makes them tragedies.
Yeah, if you look at it like it may not be enjoyable and it may be even, terribly hurtful to me, it could benefit me in some way that I may not see now. And like you say, looking back on your past at all the things that you hadn't seen that came to fruition is another part of it.
Exactly. Yeah. And here's an amazing thing that happens when you realize so that you can't judge. So meaning the evidence is in the fact that you've judged something in the past that you've changed your mind about. So your ability to judge anything, all bets are off. That's just common sense. But also, in order for you to judge something as being right or wrong or good or bad, you would have to know all of the events that led up to it and how those events affected everybody involved.
Right. In all circumstances.
And then you'd have to know how the actual event that you're judging is affecting the people in the moment. And then you'd have to know how it's going to affect everything after it. Who can do that?
No one.
Only people that believe that they know. Okay. Now, here's what happens. First of all, you don't. All right. You can't give it up. Now, here's the miracle. There's a miracle. This is an actual miracle. When you realize the sheer futility in judging things, and I'm not referring to making the best choice at any time. I'm not saying,
right.
I'm not saying, oh, I don't know, so I'm just going to do anything I want,
Right. No,
I'm talking, you want to be responsible with it, but realizing that when you realize that you can't judge anything, you're free.
To potentially make the best call from that knowledge.
Yes. And you're free from judging others.
Right.
You know that's what true freedom is. People think freedom is something that could be legislated. Brother. Freedom can't be legislated. Freedom is a state of mind that only you are in control of. For instance, did you know that politics in reality has no power over you?
I've felt that a lot, especially this past year when I haven't watched the news.
It has no power over you unless you let it.
Yeah.
Unless you allow it. If you find yourself judging other people because of what they might believe, you lost your power. You become unconscious. It's a form of unconsciousness.
Which is a really big, I think a very negative thing. I mean, for me personally, the only thing I've ever been affected by that had to do with politics was a minimum wage increase when I was working part-time jobs. A lot of work disappeared. And, I understand things like that, but definitely this past year when I turned off the news for months during riots and this and that, I found that I forgot they were even happening.
Good for you.
That's important.
Yeah, it's a collective. You get sucked into the collective. And when that happens, it's like mob mentality. You lose your independence. You lose your independence.
You really do.
You live in a mental state of fear because that's what the news is. The news, at least a good portion of it, I'd say the vast majority, is based in fear. It may not look that way, whenever you see anger, criticism, that's just another face of fear. And that's what you see in the news most of the time. Yeah. So
it's true.
The fact that you were able to turn it off, that's good because it's hard for a lot of people to turn it off because there's an addiction. There's an addiction to the drama because the ego gets involved and it says, why they're wrong. There could be peace if it wasn't for them.
Right.
But what people don't realize is at any given time on the planet, there was 50 wars going on through history, and your attention to it invites it into your life.
Yes.
Your non-attention to it gives your attention to other things. Like, for instance, if everybody in this country right now was to give their attention to their immediate environment, their immediate environment, to give their full attention to it. And maybe I'm not referring to those people that are in, desperately challenged situations right now, whatever they might be, whether they have to decide to pull the trigger or not, or whatever it is. The vast majority of the time, everything's actually all right. Your immediate, when you look into your immediate environment, everything's actually just fine.
Right.
Like right now.
Yeah, I got no bombs going off. I got a roof over my head.
When was the last time you were in a war?
Never.
Never. When was the last time you saw somebody get killed?
Thank God, never. I've never seen a dead body.
Ever seen a dead body? Okay, so now, of course, some people, that's part of their lot, but the vast majority of people, it's not.
Yeah.
But when you're watching TV and you psychologically attach yourself to these things, it's as if you're living in it. It's as if it's happening. You emotionally are responding as if it's actually happening in your life. And your body feels that too. Your body is responding to your psychological state. So it is a challenge to pull yourself away from it, or to look at it from a state of independence, from a state of presence.
Right. To properly assess it.
To at least look at it and realize this is insane, and it's fine, but you're just like looking at it.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you're the kind of person that feels like, I want to do something about it, that is the best way to come up with an effective solution. Because I'll tell you what, an effective solution is the only real solution. And the attributes and the outcome of a true effective solution is when it's a win-win, where there is no loss, only abundance for both sides, only win-win for both sides, abundance. And, in the perfect state of government, you've got people with different ideologies. You got them on the left and the right. In government, to get the best decision, you need the left and the right to come up with a solution that works for both. That's an effective solution. That's a win-win for both.
Yes.
If you don't, then the problem keeps repeating itself in different form, and that's called history. Okay. Man. So if you look through history, it's the same problem repeating itself, and it's just different form.
Right. And at different times.
But it will not change until an effective solution where there is a win-win comes about. And and one might hear me say something like that and say, yeah, win-win. I know what the win is, but they don't. It's because of them. Okay. So no, you don't.
Then we're right back to the root of the whole issue.
Right back to the root. It's them. It's not them. It's you. And I'll tell you how, because there's, that's idealistic. You live at that. Oh, he's an idealist. Okay. He's one of those. He believes that there can be peace and a solution. Well, I'll be as bold. I'll be bold enough to tell you how you find an effective solution to the worst problems in the world, to the worst political conundrum. Mm-hmm. This is how you find an effective solution.
You win-win.
You have, well, that's the result of an effective solution, but you find the effective solution by wanting one.
Oh yes. See, because, and that really is the root of the issue, isn't it? Because people seem to enjoy the fight.
Exactly. That's the ego. They don't know that, they're unconscious. They don't realize that they don't want a win-win solution. Do you think that either of the aisles or either of the religions, or either of the sexualities, whatever it is, whatever it is, want a win-win? Let's talk about politics, because that's the most insane right now.
Yes.
Do you think that they want, can you see, I don't know, I don't want to name names, but two people from the aisle, each side of the aisle, sitting together and saying, I know in my heart of hearts that between you and I, because we have different visions, because of our differences, when we come across something that when we don't compromise, until we come across something that we both feel that is a solution for both of us, that's what I want. That's what I really, really want. I want that effective solution that is a win-win, and I know it, and I'm determined to find it. I know there's a way, and I'm determined to find it. With you. Will you do this with me? Are you determined? Are you really? Because I'm serious. That's what I want more than anything. Are they doing that?
Absolutely not.
No. Are you doing that?
Trying.
There you go. Now you know. Now
Yeah.
you know.
And I
And
would be so bold to say that it would be bad for business if they did start doing it in the ego business. No, it would be great for humanity, but in terms of the money-making fear machine, it would be bad for business if they did
no, it
that.
wouldn't be. That's the big lie. The
Okay.
abundance that we would know in this world, the abundance that is already here, that we don't even know how to deal with, we don't even recognize, the absolutely intense abundance for everybody, bar none, that is available on this planet is not seen because it's being held back by people's desire to win. It's not, if their desire was to win personally, if their
Right.
desire was for win-win for everybody, massive abundance is the only thing that comes out of it. That's the secret. That's
Right.
the secret. The biggest, you want to know what the biggest thing that we fear is?
I do.
Love. That's our biggest fear.
I can attest to that.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. I'm not holding anybody to blame because this is just where we're at right now in humanity. And the good news is it's changing. It has been changing. There are many people that are waking up now more than ever. There's many, you listening to what I'm saying and even being, the aha moments you're having is you waking up to this.
Oh, absolutely.
You realizing that the power that you actually have as an individual, because that's where the power is. It's not outside of you. It's not outside of anybody. It's not in the owning of things. It's in your own, it's in the discovery of your own independence. It's the only place.
Yeah.
It's the only place you can find your power.
I think that's so important too, for people to hear from you,
Well, they're not listening to me for things like this, but that's fine.
But I think that's why it's important. I think it's even more important because a lot of people wouldn't seek out something to open their mind, but they may seek out something about music. They'll also get music, which I'm about to ask you about, but then you may open their mind to something else. So I think it's really a very good thing. And, I know you've also been putting a lot of work into various projects, potentially an acoustic record. I don't know if you can talk about that.
Sure, yeah, I'm happy to talk about anything.
Yeah, acoustic record, Vai band record.
Yeah, right now musically, I'm doing a couple of things. The thing I'm working on right now is before I had this surgery done, which is nothing. If any of my fans see it and they say, "Oh, what's happened with your hand?" I'm fine. I had trigger finger, and they fixed it. But before this happened, my shoulder was screwed up, and I couldn't use this hand, so I was playing with one hand. So I did a little song with one hand, and I'm gonna work on trying to get that out. And then a while ago during lockdown, I started to do some playing live, which is kind of a little unnerving for me. Like right on the Zoom.
Into the camera, right?
Yeah, the camera, because you never know what it sounds like. You never know. But it turned out good. And one of the things I did was an acoustic version of one of my songs where I sang, which I don't do very normally.
Right.
And it turned out well. And I always had this desire to one day just do an acoustic record of just me playing acoustic guitar and singing. Nothing virtuosic, just there's a certain melody DNA that I have that whenever I come across a song idea that falls into that category, I kind of put it on the shelf under a different category.
Gotcha.
And I had a whole bunch of these, and I said, okay, now it's time to make this acoustic vocal record with these songs. So that's what I'm working on. But I also have all the songs put aside and ready to record for an instrumental guitar record that I'm hoping will be the next record I work on. And then a tour, like every other artist. I'm itching to get back on tour, and I've got a huge tour booked. We just don't know when we could start.
It's going over a year long, potentially, right?
For me, it's been a while. Yeah, a couple of years since I've been out.
But in terms of, you would be going out for hundreds of shows, right? In the future?
Oh, yeah. About 250
Wow.
shows. Yeah, in about 52 countries. I have the itinerary, but it just keeps moving. But the other project I'm working on that I'm very excited about is I'm recording a bunch of my orchestra music.
Oh, yes. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I've got about 4 hours of orchestra music that I've had performed and I've had recorded, but I wasn't really crazy with the recordings. It's for a series of records that I'm releasing called Sound Theories. And I've released Sound Theories 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm with this music, once it's recorded, I'll have enough, I think probably up to volume 6. I'll have 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7.
Nice.
So I'm
So are
really
you
excited
producing
about
that music yourself, or are you just helping arrange it?
No, I compose everything myself by hand.
Wow. Well, I mean,
Well,
what's that like? Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was saying the last few scores I did, I typed them right into the manuscript program on the computer.
Okay, but you're still doing it all. I mean, what's that like in terms of producing and composing compared to just straight up guitar and what you're sort of more known for?
They're both very creative, but they use different brain muscles.
Okay.
Like sitting and jamming on the guitar. It's like an instant kind of a release. You know what I mean? It's like you get an idea and boom, you just play, and it's instant. Composing, it's similar in that you get an idea, but you have to write it out, and then there's more of a process of getting people to play it. But I
Right.
really love it because unlike having just 6 strings, you've got 90-piece orchestra.
Wow.
And you can just color things. It's the thing I love about composing is you can hear stuff in your head, and if you understand the language, you can build it on paper.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so great. It's so cool.
And it is a language, sort of.
It is. It's a language, and it's not hard. I mean, trust me. I say this. It sounds like I'm trying to be humble, but it's true. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I mean, not anybody. Most people can do it because I'm not the sharpest tack in the box. As a matter of fact, I was terrible. I was a terrible student in school.
Were you?
Oh yeah, very average, and below average in most things except math and music. I don't know. They just worked.
They do go hand in hand. That makes sense
Yeah.
to me,
Yeah, they do.
especially for a guitar player.
Yeah, yeah.
What about
So-
Generation Axe?
Oh yeah, that's I have sitting on the shelf. I recorded the entire last tour, and I've got we filmed Austin, Texas. So I'm working on a record and a DVD from that tour, from
Wow.
the last US tour. And it's pretty much at the point where now I just got to start mixing.
Okay, so it's really coming to form then.
Yeah.
That sounds so cool. I mean, one thing I've noticed is both in, on stage with the group and on social media recently, you speak very highly of Zakk Wylde. And, I've had the unique opportunity to interview Zakk a number of times. I actually got one of the rare serious interviews where he wasn't cracking jokes, which was an honor. Yeah, it is very rare. But talk to me about your relationship with Zakk.
Well, with Zakk, it's like with the other guys in that there's a professional relationship where we knew each other through the years as we were both kind of in the same business and at the same levels, and this kind of thing, and always nice to each other, and maybe occasionally we'd get to play together. It's like that with all the guys,
Right.
But you don't really get to know somebody until you're touring with them.
Mm-hmm.
And each one of the Generation X guys are just amazing. I love them like brothers, and Zakk is just, oh my God, I can't, it's hard to explain him. He's so funny, so lovable, so intense. He is so much himself. He hasn't, people struggle to find their authentic personality.
Yeah.
Because most of the time they're not themselves because they're placating somebody else or they're acting differently around different people.
Mm-hmm.
Zakk doesn't even know that.
No.
He's like Zakk, no matter where he is, with anybody. And it is so funny because he wears who he is on his sleeve. And he's a smart guy, but he has an aversion to being serious,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yes.
and that's so refreshing. And he's just funny, you know, he's just funny. And um, he's so suited for what he does. I mean, I've never in my life seen a musician with that kind of stamina. I mean, I just watch that guy. I'd watch him like just playing, and he just rips. You know, he's just
Yeah.
ripping, and I'm like, this motherfucker just doesn't let up.
No.
You know, and
It's
I'm like,
unbelievable.
yeah, and I'm like, okay, all right, that's cool. I gotta do it because that's how you get inspired. You see
Hmm.
somebody doing things that inspire you, and I'm like, all right, I got to do that. I got to not the way he does it, you know, my
Your own
own
way,
way.
of course.
And yeah, I can't.
Hmm.
I can do it in chunks, you know, but to be that intense, you know, like for a 12-minute guitar solo and not let up,
Otherworldly.
that's a big boy game, man.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, what a lineup. I think it's potentially, the greatest super group of my time. Definitely something I'd love to see live. So the DVD will be great. Definitely looking
Yeah.
forward to that. And, another big thing for people is that you actually have the Vai Academy, the sixth edition, coming out January 2nd to 6th, 2022 in Long Beach at the Queen Mary. What can you tell me about that?
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Um, I love doing those. That's my
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to kind of do something that I've always loved, and that's teaching.
Yeah.
Always liked teaching music, teaching guitar. And the Vai Academies are so great because I kind of theme them, you know.
Okay.
So like the first theme was based on writing a song, recording it, and getting it out into the world. You know, it was fantastic. And then
Okay.
various themes. One was on the guitar, so I had guitar makers come, and you know, so I'm not quite sure what the next one's going to be. But one of the things that I do at the camps that's so great is, first of all, the camps are usually done. They're called camps, but you know, they're done in these beautiful hotels and
Right.
resorts, and it's just a great opportunity to get out of town, go hang out with a bunch of guitar players that have dreams and hopes, you know, and to share with them and to jam with them and to learn. We always have incredible artists. At Zakk, I'm one of them. I'm hoping Nuno's going to be at the next one.
Nice.
And one of the things I do that I love so much is I jam with every camper.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, we have jams at night, and everybody comes up and has time to play.
That is so cool. I mean, that must be, something super special for everybody out there. Just to wrap up, I just have a couple little questions from some fans on social media. Fran wanted to know, as a guitarist myself, I know the sound and feel of the instrument makes all the difference. How do you mentally deal with performing at a venue where nothing sounds or feels right in the space?
You make believe it does.
You make believe it does. I guess what else can you do? You got to make do, right?
Listen, I've been in every situation, and sometimes, yeah, it just doesn't sound right. The amp might not be delivering because the place you're in has a whole different power structure. It might be buzzes. There might be, you're out of a carpet floor, which sucks up all the sound. There might be what's on the walls can
Right.
change. Sometimes, and you just what I've discovered is what it is, and you make the best out of it, whatever it is. If you can improve it somehow, that's great. But letting it like blow your show, and it has for me for many years. That's why I've been touring for 42 years, and I've been through many different kinds of challenges, and sometimes they've bummed me. You know, in my earlier days, if I played a bad note or if it sounded terrible, I would just ruin the whole show. And
Hmm.
really, that's unfair to your audience, and it's pretty unprofessional, you know.
Hmm. I could see that for sure. We got a lot of questions about the supposed David Lee Roth reunion that almost happened at the Lucky Strike in Hollywood that was shut down by fire marshals. People wanted to know if that's a true story and if that could potentially ever happen again.
Well, that's a very true story. Myself, Billy, and Greg were going to perform at this place, Lucky Strike, with another singer, Ralph from uh, I'm sorry, they're the '80s cover band, Panther.
Steel Panther.
Steel Panther. Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
And because he does Roth really good, So he said, oh, sure. But then, I reached out to Dave and I said, hey, you want to do this? He said, yeah, man. So we planned it. And when we got down there, the place held 350 people. They stuffed 1,700 people in it.
Oh, my gosh.
And the line went out the street all around the corner, around the whole building. I was like, and the stage had a curtain, So I had, and we're going to start with Yankee Rose, and Dave's in the back and he's waiting for me to start it. And the curtain is right there. And I'm right in front of the curtain and everybody's waiting for me to hit that first chord and the curtain was going to open. And I wind up and I'm just about to hit this chord. And the guy owner comes up and he goes, Steve, don't play. Like, why? Because the fire marshal's here. They said, you can't play. They're going to fine you. And I said, fine me? Okay, cool. I don't care. What is it going to cost? It'd be like $5,000. Fine. Okay, I'm playing, here goes. Ready? No, Steve, don't. Let me make sure that's, and then I go, okay. So I wait, he comes back, he goes, no, you can't play. If you play, you're going to jail. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'm ready. He goes, no, but then they'll close the place down. And then I'm thinking, So I had to tell Dave, we can't do it. And it was right there. I was like, just let me hit the floor,
You're ready.
And I came really close to just doing it, but it would have really screwed up the club owners, and I didn't want to do that. So yeah, that was and we talked about doing it again at some point, but it's one of those things. Either it was going to happen then, or I don't know.
Okay, may or may not happen.
Yeah.
Finally, to end each interview, we just have 4 speed questions that we do. Probably just 1-word answers. An artist you wish you saw live in their prime.
Tom Waits.
Tom Waits. Okay, I love that. For one day, you could switch ability with any entertainer or athlete. Who would it be?
I love the way Michael Jordan flies through the air.
Yes, that would be incredible. One moment in your life that you felt starstruck.
Every time I was ever around Frank Zappa.
Yeah,
but,
I can only imagine.
Yeah, I met Prince once, and I was pretty. Well, actually, that was okay. It was probably Tom. I met, Tom was actually, well, it's very private, but yeah, I got to know him. But,
Tom Waits.
For a while, Tom Waits. For a while, it was very difficult.
Wow, fascinating for sure. And finally, deliver one message to the young Steve Vai. He walked in the room right now. What would you say if he was looking for advice?
You're doing fine.
You're doing fine. I really love that. Steve, this has been such an honor. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Very nice. I appreciate it.
And there you have it. My exclusive interview with Steve Vai. I want to thank Steve and his people for helping me facilitate this. They were fantastic. I want to thank you for tuning in, and of course remind you that if you like what you just watched or heard, please click that subscribe button wherever you're tuning in, be it Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher Radio. Hit that subscribe button and leave a comment or review. Let me know what you think of the content I've been putting out. And of course, follow me on all social media at Cassius Morris and at Cassius Show for updates on me and all of my various programs. I've got a lot of exciting episodes coming down the pipe. This is just the beginning of a massive lineup that's about to drop. And to be frank with you, I couldn't be any happier about it. I'm happy to have you along for the ride. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Cassius Morris Show. And until next time, this is Cassius Morris saying, rock on.